Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's big press conference largely focused on the micro, small and medium enterprises. Several demands made by the MSME sector for a long time. Remember, there was a perverse disincentive to growth, which essentially means that as you grew, a lot of the benefits that accrue to small companies because of the fact that they were small were no longer available. So that's been fixed quite substantially. And I want to get reactions on this. Soumyakanti Ghosh joins us. He's the Chief Economic Advisor to the State Bank of India. Samir Kochar joins us. He's the President of Scotch Development Foundation. It's a think tank that works very closely with small companies in India. Rajiv Dubey is our National Affairs Editor, Business Editor, and we've got Rahul Srivastava, National Affairs Editor as well. Samir Kochar, I come to you first. You've been pushing for several of these measures for the micro, small and medium enterprises. Net. For those who are watching this press conference, what according to you is the biggest takeaway?
Okay, so I think in terms of vision and what has been announced, it's a blockbuster vision. It's really mega. And the single biggest change that has happened is actually the definitional issue of MSME. And, so where there is no difference between banking and services MSME. Now, I'm also a reforms historian. So if you look at in terms of 1991 reforms, one of the things that was not done even after that was the administrative reform. Similarly, here there is going to be a lot of implementation fine print, which is administrative in nature. And for example, if you change the definition of MSME for registration, is the MSME definition also changed for banks for lending? Because banks calculate the credit line to an MSME depending on whether he's services or manufacturing. So unless that is addressed, then this merger of definition for registering an MSME is quite meaningless. Unless and until banks also implement it, that is one thing. Second thing is that there is this concept of registered MSME. Now, why should, if it's a turnover-based definition and that data is available to you through GST, how many invoices that are raised, then why should I register with NSIC? Most people do not like to get registered with NSIC because it's a fairly exploitative relationship. Also, once you tell your customers that you're NSIC registered, they don't want to do business with you because then they start getting counted in the MSME Act. So since the government is incapable of implementing the provisions of MSME Act, then changing the definition and then insisting that you get registered is counterproductive. So unless until that change comes about, nothing much is going to change. The third part is the enhanced credit limit that they've talked about, 3 lakh crores. Now, this I assume is a top-up limit on top of the existing limit. Now, what percentage of top-up will be there is something that we will have to see. Also, if you look at the earlier credit guarantee schemes, they have been fairly dysfunctional the way the credit guarantee fund has been operating. For example, 25% collateral and 75% is government guarantee in the existing scheme. But for that 25%, the risk is carried by the bank, and banks end up taking 125% collateral to cover that 25%. So actually, if you go to a bank, you will get loan against 125% collateral. But if you go through the credit guarantee scheme, you give 125% for 25 and 75% is given by the government. So the bank is covered by 200%. So is this going to change is something that we will really have to watch. No one has actually got credit guarantee free.
I want to get a word in from Soumyakanti Ghosh as well. Mr. Ghosh, you've been looking at the numbers. You have some more details now. If this is directed largely at the micro, small and medium enterprises, the big question was how many of the companies will be able to survive this pandemic and ensure that they're standing on the other side. What's your sense? What's the answer on the back of this press conference?
Yeah, I think, Rahul, it's a very well-crafted package because throughout the course of the speech, I was estimating what is the actual announcement and what is the direct impact on fiscal. I think the way the program has been structured, the direct impact on fiscal deficit, the cash outgo, which we'll call, even though the announcement has been around 6 trillion, the direct announcement will be actually less than 1 trillion. And the rest are made of loans, guarantees, others. So that's, I think, is the first thing to note. Now, regarding your specific question on the MSME, I think the first thing we need to understand is that this 3 lakh credit expansion, this is against 100% guarantee. So I think this was exactly what the system wanted, because once you have a 100% guarantee, and given the fact that this 100% guarantee means even if you're assuming say a loss of say 10% on this 3 lakh crores, that means this 30,000 crore will be the guarantee the government will be giving, and that too on a period of 4 years. I think the banks will be and the institutions will be completely lending to the SMEs, and since this will be a collateral-free lending, I don't see any problem why this cannot take off. I think this is one of the best steps. The other things in the MSME sector is the change in their term definition. I think what has happened is that after the GST came into implementation in 2017, all definitions on this MSME has been linked to turnover, and they have been linked to a GSTN number. So now that we are changing the definition and blurring the distinction between manufacturing and services, and will be mapping it to this GSTN number, so banks actually will find it easier to extend loans to these credit-worthy MSMEs, which were actually not earlier possible because of the definitional problem. So this is another very good thing which has happened. And the other thing is that there has been also, apart from MSME, I think there are other good things in the budget in terms of credit guarantees. In credit guarantees to the NBFCs and mutual fund institutions which are not credit-worthy in nature, that has also been announced, and that will also allow
everyone at Franklin Templeton will be saying, if this had been done just a few weeks ago, maybe the Franklin Templeton 6 debt funds that went under would have survived this pandemic.
Yes, so I think these are all good steps, and I think it addresses all sections of the society, the MSME in particular, and given the fact that we are going through an unprecedented situation, we want to buy time. So the only question was, how do we address the package? This has been a very carefully structured package so that the impact on fiscal is minimal, and we have the largest bang from the buck.
Now, Rajiv Dubey, from what I heard from the official right at the end, he says we'll have 4 or 5 such press conferences. That means there'll be 4 or 5 such iterations. Today focused on the medium and small and micro enterprises, and that's probably because that's the package that was ready. But people were wondering, what about all the migrants who are walking? Are we going to have a relief package for urban workers? Will there be something for larger companies? So any answers, any thoughts about that?
So Rahul, from what I can make out from the announcements today, the primary preoccupation from the government on the government's mind is preventing the collapse of certain sectors. What I can make out is that this is meant to prevent the collapse of the SME sector, which forms the foundation of large enterprises within the country. This is meant to prevent the collapse of discoms, which would have put the whole power systems across the country in a bit of a jam. This is meant to prevent the collapse of the contractors' businesses. This is meant to prevent the collapse of the real estate sector, to ensure that they can continue with these enterprises. And as far as the workers are concerned, I think MSMEs, despite the fact that they have got these credit guarantees and for standard MSMEs, for stressed MSMEs, for viable MSMEs, their biggest preoccupation right now was how do they pay the salaries of the employees, and they were expecting salaries to be paid by the government for the lockdown period, which hasn't happened. So that will be slightly disappointing for them. The definitions is an enabler. It's not something that is going to have an immediate or direct impact. But the tax proposals, all of these things are, it seems, the government was preoccupied with the concern that there is a probable collapse of MSME sector that is to be prevented, and I think all of these measures are meant right now to prevent that collapse.
Rahul Srivastava, there were 2 routes that could have been followed. One is the route that we saw in the United States, where the government is transferring income support to the accounts, handing out income support to those who desperately need it. In India, the government seems to have followed the approach, let's try and save the company. If the company saves, they'll find a way of paying the employee. What's your big takeaway on the back of this press conference?
Rahul, I agree with Rajiv. The idea is to take care of the current status of various sectors. Biggest being the MSME. If the MSME right now need to start, if we have been speaking to several of them, is that they needed money to start. And banks wouldn't have touched them at this moment with additional funds, because either their loans are large in character, or they are stressed, or they are viable but do not have professional management. Remember, the main move in terms of 3 lakh crore rupees is an interesting, logical move. But the other distressed fund and fund of funds is a very interesting move, because fund of funds actually is a formula which was employed by the Oyo rooms. It is that by bringing in some professional management, you actually told the bank, conveyed to the bank that you can actually carry forward a new movement. And that is where these solutions are very appropriate. If you look at it, the idea here seems to be the government does not seem to be doling too much of money out right now. I think more of it are guarantees, savings and others. It is not that the government has given out a dole or anything. I messaged one senior leader during the press conference, and his view is that right now there is a lot of flux as far as migrant laborers are concerned, though the fact is that that's one of the biggest crises right now, and migrant laborers need to be stopped in their tracks, because even this incentive to the MSME to restart will not fluctuate if the laborer is not there. So how the government wants to address the problem, maybe perhaps in the tomorrow or day after, the government may come out with some formula for that.
What's coming tomorrow, Rahul Srivastav?
What I will say, Rahul, is that there are several stages of work on several packages. Now, one hint which came to me during the press conference is there is a possibility that tomorrow late evening or tomorrow day after early morning, there could well be another tranche coming. Right now, no clarity on what it could be.
Now, remember, there are two guns that are firing at this time. One is what the finance minister just announced. The other is what the Reserve Bank of India has already done and can potentially do as an enabler going forward. And for a sense of what the RBI's options are and what to make of this package, I am joined at this time by eminent economist, former governor of the Reserve Bank of India, D. Subbarao. Mr. Subbarao, welcome. It's a pleasure and a delight and honor to have you with us. I want to start by asking you, sir, what you make of the package that the finance minister just announced, largely targeted at the micro, small and medium enterprises. The concern was that many of these companies may go under. On the back of the finance minister's announcements, do you think that many of them will be left standing at the end of this pandemic?
Yes, the short answer to your question is yes. It's disappointing, though, that the finance minister has not given the details, the big picture of the 20 trillion package. We now know that there's a lot of packaging in this package. But even if you strip away all the packaging, even if you take away all the non-expenditure items, I think there is still considerable stimulus in this, and today's is just one part of the big stimulus package. So I believe that this, together with all the reforms that are to follow over the next few days and which will be implemented over the next several months, I think will stimulate the economy and help us get into a V-shaped recovery. A V-shaped recovery was quite possible, quite probable. It'll become even more probable now.
Now I have a few questions for you, sir. One is,
yes,
the push now is for Atmanirbhar Bharat, which is kind of what Make in India always was. What's the difference? This thrust now towards self-reliance and the push for Make in India, in principle, they seem the same. How are you processing this?
Well, I didn't think through it like you asked, but the self-reliant India does not necessarily mean putting up protectionist walls and producing behind that. We left that in 1991. I hope we will not bring it back. The way I understand our Nirbhar India, self-reliant India, is that we will produce for domestic consumption, but we will also continue to export so that our exports will increase and equal imports, so that on the current account, we are more or less balanced.
So, but as far as exports are concerned, the same wave of economic nationalism that's playing out in India is playing out globally, and walls are being built, trade walls, tariff walls, and therefore, it's a mirror of what's happening in India. Then how do you increase your exports, which in any case were distressed, even building up to this pandemic?
Well, we have to increase our exports the same way we've been trying to do for the last 25 years. In particular, I recall that the Prime Minister yesterday mentioned about global supply chains. And I think this is an opportunity for India to occupy the space that's being vacated by China by implementing all the reforms that were talked about yesterday, that we've been talking about for several years: land, labor, agriculture.
Is this the right time to push through some of those reforms? Because people would say labor is already distressed. And therefore, if you remove whatever semblance of security they had, is that the right way to go? And there would be others who would say, even if you do it at this time and make it easier to acquire land for fresh investments, how many greenfield projects are going to come for people wanting to make those investments?
Well, these reforms are not one-shot reforms, okay? They're going to take time. They've got to be phased out over several months, perhaps several years. So I don't think that is this the right time is a relevant question. This is the right time, certainly, to make a commitment. This is certainly the right time to make a statement so that the markets understand where we are headed. And this is the right time to inspire the confidence of potential domestic and foreign investors. But implementation of the reforms themselves will take a long time. What's important, apart from declaring the intent of the reforms, is over the next month, perhaps, for the government to come out with the contents of the reform and the timetable and the deliverables so that their performance on the reforms can be evaluated against those deliverables, against those milestones. I believe that's very, very important to continue to retain the confidence of the markets and to inspire the confidence of potential investors.
Lastly, sir, what more can we expect, in your view, from the Reserve Bank of India? The Reserve Bank of India has done a lot of the heavy lifting so far, but a lot of the excess liquidity which was offered not being, and the Prime Minister alluded, and the Finance Minister alluded to it, saying that we've got liquidity, but there's nobody coming forward for extra new credit because they're debt phobic at this moment. Therefore, what more can we expect from the RBI beyond what we've heard so far?
Well, RBI will continue to do the things that they've done. They've cut interest rates, the repo and reverse repo rate, they've injected an extraordinary amount of liquidity, and they've come out with some very innovative schemes for specific sectors like NBFCs, housing finance companies, microfinance institutions, for mutual funds. And the governor himself said that some schemes, for example, that targeted at crore, directed towards NBFCs or the lower level corporates is not working. They're going to tweak that. So RBI can do a lot of things within their conventional policy arsenal. They can do a lot of things by innovating over what they've already done. They can infuse further liquidity, and importantly, they've got to manage the government's borrowing program, which is going to be quite a task for the Reserve Bank.
Many are saying, when the question is asked about where the financing will come from, that the government should just print cash and the enabler would be the RBI. What do you make of this option and the potential of that having an inflationary spiral on the products that we consume in our daily lives?
Well, there's a lot of misunderstanding about this print and spend and borrow because there is already printing happening.
Sure.
Even under the current financing of government's borrowing, the banks are buying government debt, the banks are getting government bonds, the government is getting the money, but RBI is doing open market operations. With the result, the RBI is buying the bonds from the banks and giving the money back to the banks. So there is printing happening even now. Okay, what people are talking about further is direct financing. What's happening now is that the RBI is indirectly financing the government, indirectly monetizing the deficit. People are talking about directly monetizing the deficit. That can be done, but I believe the time for that has not yet come. Eventually, we might have to do it, but I think we have to work with the current arrangement for some more time. And if the potential of this is exhausted, and if we find that interest rates are going up too much, RBI might resort to direct financing, but I don't think the time for that has come yet.
Dr. Subba Rao, former Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, for joining us with your very sharp insights and taking out time so soon after the Finance Minister's press conference. Thank you very much. I deeply appreciate it. We hope to have you back for a longer conversation. I want to go across to Niranjan Hirannandani. He runs the Hirannandani Group in Mumbai, one of India's biggest developers. Mr. Hirannandani, what are you making of the package that's been announced by the Finance Minister? I think what's most relevant for you is the fact that force majeure, that any particular act is an act of God, that clause can be invoked. Does that give you some relief?
Yes, of course, but I don't think that is sufficient for real estate. Let me pick up my other avatar where I am president of ASSOCHAM and I have 4.5 lakh members who are SMEs and MSMEs. I think that's the biggest relief that we have had with the credit guarantees and also of more than 3 lakh crores, 100% collateral-free loan, partially guaranteed 20,000 crores, fund of funds 500,000 crores, which means we are talking about 3,70,000 crores to be funded to SMEs directly or indirectly. NBFCs, we have partial guarantee and fully guarantees, 75,000 crores. Discom, 90,000 crores of payment. That's a very big figure. And TDS is 50,000. I totaled all these figures together just now. That comes to around 5,85,000 crores of rupees, close to 6 lakhs crores if you count all the other miscellaneous smaller amounts of EPF and other amounts. It comes to close to 6 lakh crores. And I think that's a very good start as far as we are concerned. So I would say she has covered SMEs, MSMEs in a very beautiful and comprehensive, proper way, end to end. And I think if this is implemented fast and quick, this is going to really help a huge number of people. She's talked about 45 lakh units. My view is that more than the number of units, the number of people who are affected would be more than 2.5, 3 crores of people. And I think that's a very big direct benefit that is going to come. As far as NBFCs are concerned, I think the amount needs to be increased. 75 lakh crores of rupees may ultimately not cater off the deficit which is there. But the Discom payments, I think that's a very big thing. And if that benefit is given out to the people, 90,000 crores of rupees have been overdue to Discoms, and down the line, this is something which is going to be important.
Okay,
so
I want to go across now to K.E. Raghunathan. He is with the All India Manufacturers Association, which is really looking at some of these small, micro, medium enterprises which have been the focus. Can you give us your pain points so far, and to what extent do you think the Finance Minister's announcements in this press conference alleviates your concerns, sir?
Okay, thank you. You know, on the face of it, we are able to see a hard work being put inside in giving this relief. It's very easy, like everybody else. We would also like to appreciate, thank you, Prime Minister, thank you, Finance Minister. But having said that, since I am on your show, it is my duty to explain the areas where it is of concern to us still. It could be, nobody can be 100% happy, but could be better. That's all I'm commenting about. And this is not a criticism, this is a further suggestion. First, let us take the loans to the companies to an extent of 3 lakhs of collateral-free loans which are given. We don't know what is the interest. We don't know what is the ceiling on the loan which will be additionally given. And what about various companies where banks have taken the collateral, even if it was credit guaranteed? We should have got those documents back so that we will use the document and re-put it back. Every bank, almost 80% of the banks have extended loans to MSMEs only with collateral security.
Okay, so you're saying what you wanted more. I have a different, 1 second, I have a different question. My question is, what's the guarantee that you won't take all the guarantees that the government is offering, so benefit from all of what's on offer, and still your members end up going out and sacking employees left, right and center? The whole reason that that's being done is to ensure that there is as minimum blood on the factory floor as is possible. So the concern, legitimate concern would be that industrialists benefit from what's on offer, don't pass this on as salary credit to employees, say we don't have any money, use it as operational expenses and start shutting down there and start reducing the number of people they employ.
No, I don't think, I have not touched upon the salary at all yet. I'm only talking about the working capital limits being enhanced. That is all what I'm talking about. You have jumped into the salary being paid or not paid. That's a different issue. Number one. Number two is NPA. We are giving additional 20,000 or 25,000 crore to the NPA account for additional money. Keep giving loans for a non-performer without regularizing him. I think we have been requesting the NPA is a sign of going bad. So what we need is restructuring of those loans of NPA. For example, if he had taken loan for 36 months, make it 60 months. So that he has got a longer period to pay and get up first. And then give him additional facility to recoup himself. Could be better. Then the third one is on the EPFO. We have been requesting that the rider conditions were limiting the number of users. We have been requesting for the government to remove that rider condition, but they have allowed a 2% reduction in the provident fund payment from the employer. But 2% is nothing. We could have given at least moratorium of 3 months for them to pay.
So you are again, Mr. Raghunathan, 1 second, time out. You are saying what you want. I'm saying what's the guarantee you will pass on some of the additional credit that's being made available to you to employees? What's the guarantee you and your members will keep paying salaries?
No, but that question is there everywhere, no? See, in a small-scale industry, the relationship with an employer is like a family. It is known exactly. They will know exactly what is the problem faced by the owner. I will know exactly what is the problem paid by the employee. It is not that easy for me to run away without paying him. I can't run the company. It is not easy for me to get employees at all. Today, our biggest challenge is getting the migrant laborers back into our place. Why should they come back to only my place to work when they again come back from, let's say, Bihar or Chhattisgarh? These are the concerns. In reality, in a small-scale enterprises, employee-employer relationship is actually very, very good. Number one. Number two is, our concern is about not just the money alone. Taking only loan after loan after loan, we wanted EMI interest being relieved. We were waiting for it. We were wanting at least some relief on the ad hoc release of funds. They have given the ad hoc. Some more issues are needed to be clarified. Startups are not covered. Export units are not yet covered. Refunds has been talked about that within 45 days we will give. But which are the refunds I will get?
Okay.
And that is not clear. Okay. MSME classification, reclassification, let me address that. It's a long pending due. There is nothing, we have to do it. But why should we do it now is the only concern. When my house is on fire, should I concentrate on quenching the fire and restarting, or should I concentrate on classifying my house into which category? Okay. The period when it will be enforced is not yet known. Overall, we are very, very happy. But as I said, in the present hunger condition of the entrepreneur, any amount of good food is not enough. We will keep asking more and more. That is all what we are trying to do. And because she has very clearly said another few more announcements are expected. If I say totally happy today, I may not get anything in the next 2-3 days. So let me register that, madam, we are still hungry, madam. Please give us some more. Tomorrow,
no, this is a ridiculous approach. One second, sir. You didn't answer my question about whether you will pay salaries. You just ducked that question. Whether you won't sack, you ducked that question. You've got your whole laundry list of what you expect. It can't be take. It's also about what you're giving, sir.
No, obviously, if I have the bank balance...
You're saying you are hungry, the poor employee is hungrier than you are.
We are paying. Who said we are not
paying?
Sir,
left, right and centre, employees are being retrenched. There have been 110 million people who've been rendered unemployed according to data from the Centre of the Monitoring of Indian Economy.
No, but if I am closed for 48 days and if there is no work at all, the orders what they gave me is all cancelled and the materials are all lying in my godown, what do I do with my people? Don't you think idle brain is a devil's brain if I keep them inside my factory?
No, but you must pay them. According to the National Disaster Management Act, you and your members are obligated to pay your employees.
We are paying. Who said we are not paying?
So
Who said we don't want to pay? Who said we don't want to pay? Who said we are not paying? We are paying to the extent what we are able to pay, and we are seeking their cooperation in adjusting with us for a while, and we are arranging funds for it. Today, the banks are not allowing me to take my money out unless the last digit is coinciding with the date. Even if I have bank balance, I am not able to take out my money. And I am yet to get my refund. Madam has asked for 45 days to refund. I will get more money. I will restart. I will pay money everybody. Not only them, I have to pay my suppliers also. I have to answer everybody. How do I sleep? And who is there to look after me? You tell me. Am I denying the rights of the people? I am not denying. Am I a willful defaulter? Not at all. Am I running away from the scene? Not at all. Do you want to say unemployment loss of employers? Do you want to see that? That is not the thing. We are all concerned. We are also suffering like you. You also cannot come out of the house. I also cannot come out of the house. But an entrepreneurial life is entirely different. I don't have 10 executive directors around me or top level people to handle situation. I have to answer each and every call. So I am doing my best. SME problems are entirely different, my dear. I am not saying we are running away. Are we closing?
Okay.
Do you think I started my company for closing? No. Do you think I gave job for my people to sack them? Do you think I don't understand the pain of the people? I understand much more. I am remaining hunger, but I am feeding my people.
Okay, so it's interesting that we had a perspective from a micro, small and medium enterprise industrialist running with the All India Manufacturers Organization, to give us a sense of the challenges and the pain points. There's no point in being judgmental. Everyone has his own problems, and you've heard some of them from Mr. Raghunathan. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to take you through some of the key excerpts of